At the end of this topic, you will be able to tell what photosynthesis is and the raw materials used for it, point out the transportation pathways, compare the cells of xylem and phloem, explain the role of xylem and its mechanisms in transporting water and mineral nutrients, analyze the phenomenon of transpiration and its link with transportation. Describe the role of phloem in translocation of food from leaf to other parts of the plant.
A raw material for photosynthesis as well as the prepared food should mobilize in plants, which is taken care by conducting tissues, that is, xylem and phloem. The pathway of xylem and phloem is called xylem pathway and phloem pathway respectively. Xylem helps to transport water with dissolved minerals absorbed from the soil to leaves, and phloem pathway to conduct the food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. They are interconnected to form a continuous system for transportation. Xylem is the main water-conducting tissue system in plants. It consists of vessels, tracheids, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma. The main conducting element of xylem is vessels and tracheids. Phloem is the main food-conducting tissue system in plants. It consists of sieve elements, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. The main conducting element of phloem is sieve elements and companion cells.
Phloem tissue. Phloem tissue is a complex tissue which helps in transporting food materials from leaves to other parts of plants. It is formed from procambium. The transverse structure of a dicot stem is shown here. It consists of phloem, cambium and xylem. Here you can view the vertical longitudinal structure of phloem. Phloem is composed of 4 kinds of cells, namely sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. Let's see the structures of phloem in detail. The sieve tube has thick primary walls. Their end walls are transverse or oblique. The end walls contain a number of pores and it looks like a sieve. So, it is called a sieve plate. Here, the sieve elements are arranged one above the other and form vertical sieve tubes. In matured sieve tubes, the nucleus is absent. It contains a lining layer of cytoplasm. Its main function is the conduction of food material. Whereas the companion cells are thin-walled, elongated, and specialized parenchyma cells. They are associated with the sieve elements. They are provided with a prominent nucleus. These are connected with sieve tube cells through pits. The parenchyma cells that are associated with phloem are called phloem parenchyma. These are living cells which store starch and fats. The fibers of sclerenchyma that are associated with phloem are called phloem fibers or bast fibers. They are narrow, vertically elongated cells with very thick walls and a small lumen.
In roots, the root hair present in maturation zone has continuous contact with soil and take up the ions actively and create the concentration difference between the root and the soil. The difference in concentration makes the water and minerals to enter into the cell. The root and the soil maintain the different concentrations in order to absorb water and other minerals. Transport of water from the root to the soil is done by 2 important processes, namely suction pressure and transpiration.
It would have fascinated how the water from the soil moves to the roots and to the top of the tree. Here are some trees. Let's look at the mechanism of movement of water across the root. Observe the roots of the trees. They are branched and contain minute root hairs to absorb waters and minerals from the soil. The cross-section of dicot root shows closely arranged cells with xylem and phloem in the middle. The cortex cell in the roots is covered by the epidermis, which has the root hair. The root hairs present in the epidermis absorb the water from the soil. The water moves into the cortex cells and enters the xylem. The water thereby reaches the middle of the root and is transported upwards vertically due to capillary action.
The concentration difference between the root and soil allowed the water particles to move into the root cell by osmosis. Once the water enters into the xylem of the root, hydrogen molecules dissolve in water to form a continuous string of water like a column up to the leaf, maintaining the suction pressure and pushing the water upwards. The loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant is known as transpiration. Water is constantly lost through stomata of the leaves by transpiration. When one water molecule is lost, another is pulled from the neighboring cells in turn from the xylem cells of the root. Transpiration pull is the main cause of water movement.
Transpiration. Plants take in water through their roots and lose water through their leaves. The process of this water loss is called transpiration. About 90% of the water taken in through the roots is lost through transpiration. The process of transpiration acts as an engine that pulls water up from the roots to supply for photosynthesis. It also brings minerals from the roots for biosynthesis within the leaf and cools the leaf. Now, let us learn more about the process of transpiration. The vertical section of a leaf shows the upper and lower epidermis. The lower epidermis is provided with guard cells and a vascular bundle. Transpiration occurs through the stomata of the leaf. Plants require oxygen and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis and respiration. The stomata in the leaf help in the exchange of gases in the plants. The mechanism is like this. The stomata connects the inner space of the leaf to that of the atmosphere and ventilates the internal tissues. The movement of air into the leaf makes the intercellular spaces compressed, forcing the water vapor from the leaf to move out to the atmosphere. The amount of water that is transpired exceeds the amount of water required for the normal functioning of the plants. When the root senses water shortage in the soil, it sends message to stop the uptake of potassium ions into the cells and reduces the osmotic pressure. This makes the cells flaccid and closes the stomata pores.
Transpiration helps in the absorption and upward movement of water and mineral from roots to the leaves. It helps to regulate the temperature in plants. Stomata is open during the daytime in most of the plants where the transpiration pull is a driving force for the transportation. At night, the stomata are closed, photosynthesis is absent, so the pressure created due to transpirational pull is also less. The transport of soluble products of photosynthesis is called translocation, which is carried out by phloem. The translocation by phloem is achieved by utilizing energy. The phloem transports amino acids and other substances too. Substances are delivered to the storage organs of roots, fruits, seeds and to growing organs. The translocation of food and other substances take place in the sieve tubes with the help of companion cells both in upward and downward directions. A material like sucrose is transferred into phloem tissue using energy from ATP, which increases the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure of the neighboring tissue is less compared to the phloem tissue, causing water movement towards phloem. Phloem, which has high osmotic pressure, sends food to the tissues having less osmotic pressure. The osmotic pressure difference between the phloem and other tissues determine the direction of flow of food for the needy zones. For example, in spring, sugar stored in root tuber supplied to the growing bud.
In this topic, you have learned
photosynthesis is a source of food prepared using carbon dioxide and water, sunlight and chlorophyll. Prepared food as well as the raw materials are mobilizing in plants using phloem and xylem pathways respectively. Conduction of water and minerals is called transportation, where the xylem conducts it from roots to leaves in a unidirectional way with tracheids and vessels. Suction pressure and transpiration pull helps to pull the water from down to top. The concentration difference between the root and soil allows the water particles to move into the root cell by osmosis, creating a suction pressure and pushing the water upwards. In transpiration pull mechanism, the lost water through stomata is compensated by another which is pulled from the neighboring cells in turn from the xylem cells of the root. Conduction of food is called translocation, where the phloem conducts it from leaves to other parts of the plant in a bidirectional way with the help of sieve tubes and companion cells. The osmotic pressure difference between the phloem and other tissues causes the food to flow and also determine the direction of flow for the needy zones.